What is going on, everybody? Welcome into Alarm Fantasy Football. I'm Howard Bender, joined here, of course, by the smiley, happy Britt Flinn. Somebody must have really enjoyed her Pros with Joe's draft last night or something, or it was just an absolute spectacular lightning round episode today. Which is it? One, the other, both?
Why can't it be both? Why can't
Why
it be
can't it be
everything?
both?
Because it was excellent. The chatting with Pat is always so wonderful, and he's just the nicest and so enjoyable and knowledgeable to talk to. And not gonna lie, that FFPC draft, it engages.
It engages. I've looked at the board. I might have a different opinion on certain picks here. So it's going to make for some great conversation, and we're gonna do it now. If you guys had seen the tweets and the messaging earlier, and you were expecting for us to talk about our good friend Drew Davenport from Football Guys, well, take a step back. Say something nice to the universal spirit that ties and binds all things, and wish Drew Davenport a very speedy recovery. Woke up strep throat, no good. So I said, stay in bed, dude. I don't want you giving it to me through the microphone here, through my earbuds and stuff like that. So we'll be bringing Drew back. We're still going to talk auction draft strategy, though. I'm very excited about that. But instead of Drew Davenport, well, hey, guess what? Because Britt Flinn and Kevin Tompkins and Andrew Cooper, the lightning round team, came together last night for a Pros versus Joe's draft. We're going to bring them in. We're going to bring in Kev. Kev Tompkins is going to join us in a little bit to discuss certain things and talk about the draft as well. And we're still going to sit here and wish Coop nothing but the best as he and his darling wife get baby Laney home safe and sound and snuggled up and all sorts of great stuff. Coop will be back with us later on in the week. All right, Britt. You hear it. You know it. Here it comes. Oh, by the way, if you guys are watching this on the YouTube page, smash that like and subscribe button for us. How we feed the family. Definitely like that. I see Toronto Dave in there. What's up, brother? Oh, Kev Tompkins warming up in the chat. So let's hit that news. What do you got going on, Britt?
Yeah, so I just got news that Bears running back Roshan Johnson missed practice today. We don't know anything about the nature of the injury or why he missed practice, but with some people saying that he could supplant Khalil Herbert and possibly Donta Foreman, it's kind of an interesting situation. So we'll have to monitor that.
Is it
Let's
though?
get to
Is it?
I think that Bears backfield is a little bit up in the air.
Oh,
So
I agree with that. I'm just wondering how worried you are, really. I mean, Roshan Johnson, it's obviously, did they say injury? Did they say he missed practice? Something like that?
they
Did
said
they
that he
hint it?
missed practice. So the exact news on the phone is that he is dealing with an injury. He won't disclose what they are specifically, but both players sat out today. It was him and right guard Nate Davis. So,
Sounds like somebody doesn't want to talk about their hemorrhoids in public, huh?
you know, hey, I
Not good.
sympathize with anybody who has to deal with those. They
You know what? Not fun. I would miss practice too, 100%. But
yeah.
nevertheless,
Just it's just
are you worried though? Like, where do you see this backfield shaping up at?
I really think that it might be Foreman or Freeman, whatever. My brain is mushy right
Well,
now.
Deonta Foreman,
Um,
you got it right the first time.
yeah. It's again, my brain is mushy, and so I'm second guessing everything. But he has come on the past 2 seasons in the absence of some starters and looked really good. And he's not only looked good, but he doesn't have quite that wear and tear that a lot of other veteran backs have on him because he has come in midseason. And Chicago really did a good job with their offensive line. So I don't think he'll be asked to pass block as much. And I think that he comes out on top. Herbert obviously has that yards per carry advantage, but he's not good at pass blocking. So it really just depends. I think Johnson was a good running back in college. He was just overshadowed by the legend that is Bijan Robinson. And we didn't, really talk about him, but he still is a good running back. As far as being worried, I'm not worried about that until he misses multiple practices.
Yeah,
I
extended time away, yeah, is definitely the way it is. I agree with you. I think that Foreman is, I mean, listen, they let Montgomery walk. They paid Foreman 3 million to come in for this year. He's on a 1 year deal for $3 million, and then they drafted Roshan Johnson too. So it doesn't sound like they've got all this entire world of love for Khalil Herbert. I don't think they think that he can handle the entire workload himself, and so yeah, I agree with you there with Foreman. So speedy recovery from those hemorrhoids there, Roshan. I feel you, dog. I do.
Epsom salt bath and some witch hazel, bro. You got this. But moving on to a little bit of kind of weird news in the world of sports broadcasting. CBS Sports and Nickelodeon teamed up for the first ever simulcast of the Super Bowl. Not just a weird slime game in week 18. No, the Super Bowl. Are the ratings in the NFL down this much that we need a slime simulcast? Is this indicative of a bigger problem with the NFL and their ratings? Because I, for the life of me, cannot figure out why this is a good idea.
Because the slime broadcasts are fun. They keep the kids involved. Listen, I was never a Nickelodeon guy. I mean, it was like I was older by the time that it really became popular. But I mean, listen, if the goal is to get younger fans and to keep the young kids more and more into it, I mean, let's face facts. You watch an NFL broadcast, and how boring can that be? You got guys standing around. There's way more downtime than there is uptime, and the TV timeouts are absolutely bonkers. Not to mention the fact, and I'll say this, out of all the broadcasts right now, I love Tony Romo from the future when he descends upon a broadcast booth and starts telling you exactly what's going to happen and why it's going to happen in that way. I love that. But dude, give me some Nate Burleson on any and every broadcast. That dude is absolutely outstanding. He is entertaining. He is intelligent. He doesn't talk down to his audience. He doesn't, condescend in any way. I love Nate Burleson. And if you're going to throw Nate Burleson onto the Nickelodeon broadcast, well then, okay, fine. Give him his due. I'm done with all the Jim Nantz and Al Michaels, and I don't even know. Like half these guys I think actually might be dead, but they're still somehow in the broadcast booth, like doing like a Weekend at Bernie's kind of thing where somebody's propping them up and sticking their hand up their butts and working their mouths like a puppet or something like that. Come on, well, you don't want to get younger with the broadcast? Have some more fun?
I guess that just means that I've officially entered my get off my lawn era.
Oh, you are such an old lady right now. Is that gray? Do I see gray hair going on?
Nope.
Oh,
you sure don't.
Sellers.
Trust me, I look in the mirror every single day because I'm afraid of it.
Howard wants to know if there's a dye job going on. Something like that, maybe. What's up, old lady?
100% not a dye job. I put my stress into other areas of my body, not my hair.
I do it to my stomach. I put my stress areas right here in my belly.
Yeah. See, we all have different coping mechanisms, and mine is definitely not my hair. I swear the first gray hair I find, I'm probably just going to cash it in and call it.
Well, they say if you pull a gray hair out, 3 more grow right in its place.
I'm very glad that I haven't found any then.
There you go. Good
and
job.
Sellers in the chat, don't give me any more of a complex than I already have about gray hairs, because he knows I'm constantly asking him if it's blonde. I'm like, is this more blonde or is it gray? So already looking for that. I'm just an old lady in spirit and in soul. I get the point that you're making about it being fun for a younger audience, but I guess that I just never had that same issue of finding football fun and entertaining. But you do make an interesting point about the Weekend at Bernie's. I think that it would be very easy to do a Chris Collinsworth AI, because all he would have to say is, here's a guy, here's a guy, here's a guy, just on repeat over and over and over. So I do get that part. That makes more sense.
You know how I always say I wish I loved anything as much as Arthur Smith loves running the ball? I should qualify that with, I wish I loved anything as much as Chris Collinsworth loves Patrick Mahomes.
Yes.
Like you would say, like, wrong. I mean, this dude, it's like a magic show every single time. And the dark arts are in full, game here, because every time Mahomes does something, Patrick Mahomes did this. And Collinsworth was like, oh my God, nobody's ever done that in an NFL game before. It's the most amazing. Yeah, so out with the old, in with the new. Slime me.
I guess. Anyway, no more slime. So Ronald
you know
Jones.
what? Now I'm going to work it out with Sellers. All of a sudden, he's going to like bust in the middle of a live stream and he's going to slime you. I'm going to pay him to do
for
it.
A divorce?
Because
that is a recipe. Anyway, talking about a bad test, Ronald Jones got suspended 2 games after getting popped for a PED test. He hasn't really been a factor, and to be honest, some people probably kind of forgot that he was still on the Cowboys, but with Tony Pollard coming off an injury, do you think that Dallas looks a little bit harder at one of the free agents available to shore up their depth in that running back room?
Well, the last thing I saw was Jerry Jones is reading the tea leaves right now, and I love saying stuff like that to Cowboys fans because even you guys understand just how aggravating a statement like that is. But I mean, I think we thought that the Cowboys were going to have to go for somebody just bringing back Zeke, or the possibility of bringing in a Leonard Fournette, or I mean, obviously Dalvin Cook is creating a bidding war over in the AFC East, so it leaves some of these other guys around, and I think Dallas has to look for somebody else. They're going to have to give somebody at least a complimentary share so that Tony Pollard isn't completely overworked coming back from this injury. I will say this. If this is Ronald Jones on PEDs, dude, how bad is this guy? Because
literally took the words out of my mouth. That was performance enhancing. Excuse me? Enhancing? What? No.
Sellers, don't ask for Deuce Vaughn. Did you guys all see that? Did you see that Twitter video of Deuce Vaughn? I had to dedicate a song on Jukebox Monday yesterday to it because it was like lollipop, lollipop, oh lolly, 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 lollipop. I mean, that's what was in my head watching Deuce Vaughn run around with that just really big, oversized protective helmet. Listen, I'm all in for the protective helmets. I can appreciate them, but man, what is he, Britt? He's like what, 5'2", 5'3"? He claims he's 5'6".
He's 5'5". I think he's 5'5".
Is he 5'5" with cleats on?
Probably.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, probably 5'5" with cleats on. I will say that the helmet took things even more out of proportion than they already were. But I think that he does have some value on special teams, like a Darren Sproles situation. I mean, he is fast, and he did put up yardage in college in a Power 5 conference. So I think Sellers is right. You can't tackle what you can't see. So maybe he just gets out and just kind of sneaks his way by people. But it's going to be interesting.
Like going through defenders' legs and stuff like that.
Yeah, like my cat's trying to trip me up when I'm walking through the living room, just like can't see him and I trip and fall. And that's what Deuce Vaughn's entire MO is.
Poor Deuce.
So I know, I love him.
He's so cute.
More running back talk, which I'm so sick of talking about running backs, but it seems to be the only news that is coming out recently. Melvin Gordon is apparently still eager to prove that he's still got it after signing with the Ravens. And to be honest, he didn't look horrible with the Broncos, even in that bad offense at the beginning of last season. So with J.K. Dobbins still on the PUP list and them coming out saying that his knee injury was, quote, interesting, which doesn't sound good at all, is he going to get the opportunity to prove that he does still have it?
I mean, I guess, you kind of look at the way this Ravens backfield, sets up in a, in the air raid scheme, lots of RPO work that they're going to end up doing as well. For me, I've always thought Lamar Jackson's instinct is to take off and run, and the air raid offense spreading out the defense the way it will horizontally is going to open up some additional running lanes. So, unless I think it's a design play for the run, I feel like it's going to be difficult to get a lot of traction from Baltimore running backs. I'm not saying that they're going to be bereft of talent. We saw James Conner survive in an air raid scheme under Cliff Kingsbury, who is by far a worse coach than Harbaugh and Monken are. But I think you could mix in Gordon with his versatility and Dobbins with his versatility as well. I don't really know how much work Gus Edwards is going to get, but I mean, you know what? With the way the running back, like as you just said, the way the running back situation is in the NFL right now, you might as well take a look and see what you got.
Yeah, I think so too. It's so messy out there.
I
It's
ain't
just
drafting him though. I'm not even close.
no. He's like a watch list guy.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
definitely, we are just PSA, everybody. We are not advocating you draft Melvin Gordon.
It's amazing that we have to say that, like as a disclaimer.
Because if we don't, somebody will do it, and then I'll have to hear about it. I'll be on.
Let me look at your draft board again for the FFPC. Did you guys draft Melvin Gordon here?
We took Gus Edwards, I believe.
But
very, very late round. Very, very late round. So when it comes to splitting running backs, which we've talked a lot about Devin Singletary and Dameon Pierce for what that's worth, but DeMeco Ryans seemingly has plans for both of them and believes that each back will be excellent in this system. Does that flip your opinion one way or the other on either of these backs?
No, same opinion on both guys here. I think, listen, DeMeco Ryans they're going to bring over that outside zone run scheme that they do over in San Francisco. And that's, it's going to require the running backs. If it's not a between the tackles kind of play, then what they're hoping to do is they're hoping to get that outside, zone and turn a corner up and hopefully, be able to beat the edge rushers in. And obviously having pulling guards and tackles is going to, help with the blocking. So I think it's pretty much that kind of that same split that we're looking at, where you're going to see Dameon Pierce in those early downs. A lot of the between the tackle work is going to be for him. He's going to grind it out. And then we're going to see Devin Singletary, kind of mixed in as a good guy to go to the outside zone. A good guy for pass catching and for pass blocking. And then, my feeling about it is, like, I think they'll both have great standalone value because Pierce will get, his work. And then Singletary will probably be the guy who's on the field a lot more at the end when Texans are, shooting for a comeback and they need somebody, they're in full pass mode. So I do think that both guys are going to have standalone value. I don't think one really hurts the other too much.
Yeah, I like that. And especially with a rookie quarterback, having a solid run game is one of the best recipes for success in that situation. Let's get to one more here that I'm pretty interested in. Yesterday, it was confirmed that Broncos wide receiver Tim Patrick suffered a fully torn Achilles. I mean, prayers up for him. That it's just awful. Nearly a year to the day after he tore his ACL. And they also released KJ Hamler while he's dealing with a heart infection. Now, the hope is to eventually re-sign him once he gets over that. But in the meantime, this vaults Marvin Mims into the top 3 wide receivers automatically. They've kind of got some Saints remnants on their roster with Marquez Callaway and Lil Jordan Humphrey. But do you think with these 2 injuries that the Broncos go out and try to trade for some more substantial wide receiver depth?
I mean, I think that they'll kind of work their way through camp and see what they've got going on here. I think it's a good opportunity for Marvin Mims, to work that. Now, I think that we'll see, obviously we're going to see a lot of 11 personnel, a lot of 3 wide receiver sets in Denver. So, I think, maybe if the guys who are, in the back end, I mean, I'm not going to bank on Hamler coming back. I mean, heart issue there. The last thing anybody wants is like another DeMar Hamlin situation, or to even put somebody back in there. So, listen, I think it's just a situation to monitor. I don't know how, who's going to be out there or available to really move the needle. I think your focus when looking at Denver is just Sutton and Judy and Dulcich. Maybe what this does is maybe increases the use of more 12 personnel, 2 tight end sets. You got Dulcich out there, and you still have Albert Aquabenum. So, I think that there are definite things that can happen with that where they don't need to bring in like a whole mess of also Rams. I think Detroit's got that market cornered anyway.
Yeah, the article that I read was speculating that maybe they would trade with the Rams for some of their smaller receivers, like a Tutu Atwell or Puka Nacua or something like that. And I'm like, that doesn't really make much sense because Sean Payton also brought in Adam Troutman to be that inline blocker. So I think that they can still make it work with Dulcich, with Sutton, with Judy without bringing those people in. But yeah, I agree. It's a situation to monitor and just kind of unfortunate for both of those receivers to go down on the same day.
Yeah. Kind of make some of my late best ball Marvin Mims calls look a little better. We shall see. All right, let's take a quick breather from the news because I know we've got backstage. Let's bring him out here because he's eating all the food in my green room right now. It's Kev Tompkins here. You guys know his Twitter handle's right there below at KTompkinsII. You know him from the Lightning Round. You know him from Fantasy Alarm. You know him everywhere. Come on. Kev Tompkins, baby. What's up, dude? Welcome in. Oh, that's an ugly-looking hat you got going on there.
What's up, gang? Yeah, it's a little love to our we just finished Lightning Round last hour with Pat Fitzmaurice, noted Packer fan as well. So a little solidarity there. But yeah, eating all the snacks in the green room, like this belly ate for show. So if there's food there, I gotta be eating it. And you know what? No one will ever force me into drafting not just Melvin Gordon, but any running back.
Well, it looks like it looks like you won out for at least the most part here. Let's see. Can we get let's get the draft board up here for a little bit. Can we move us to like the side so we can still see? Because I want to see the reactions of Britt and Kev as I go. Ooh, no, I'm just kidding. First of all, I mean, listen, guys, if you're looking at this right here, they picked in the 2-hole. Start off with the Travis Kelce, Patrick Mahomes. Did you guys catch yesterday's Alarm Fantasy Football with at Fantasy Mojo? As we talked, 70% of the teams who made it into the playoffs of the main event over at the FFPC had the Travis Kelce, Patrick Mahomes stack. Was that planned by you two?
We had actually talked about that before we even drafted. And then I saw that show and that just solidified it more. I was like, okay, if Kelsey's gone, that's understandable. We'll pivot. But having him right there in this tight end premium format, that was an automatic click.
Yeah, as far as our strategy at the first 2 picks, it was either Jefferson or Kelce. We were kind of figuring, obviously, strategies based on if Kelce went 101, we're taking Jefferson and kind of going from there with a more maybe conventional build. But Travis Kelce, we thought about even putting Mahomes into the 3rd round to see if we could possibly get him there. But some Jahmyr Gibbs, who we talked about possibly taking in the 3rd round or even in the 2nd round, went at 205 here, which was the highest that he went in any of the drafts, at least so far. So you know what? We figured we'd just grab Patrick Mahomes, and I think it was kind of a good strategy considering that the team won on the wrap, took Jalen Hurts. I thought maybe Patrick Mahomes would have been in jeopardy had we not taken him. So I'm glad we at least locked up Kelce Mahomes because that freed me and Britt up to do whatever we wanted, let value fall to us, kind of build how we want to build and not have to worry about 2 kind of onesie positions at tight end quarterback.
Now, Kev is a notorious pro wide receiver guy. I won't say you're anti running back. I won't say you're throwing down the 0 RB theory too often here, but we know which side of the fence you sit, Kev. Britt.
Hey, there's good people on both sides of the.
I'm not saying there isn't. What actually, because what I'm actually going for here, the question that I do have, because I think that this is really important, because I think that when it comes to not just high stakes, but just fantasy in general, you get a lot of partnerships with owners. And the question is how do you guys balance it? Like, Britt, how much do you subscribe to Kev's anti-RB philosophies here? Do you fight about it? Do you guys have like little trade-off moments?
So in years past, we have definitely argued about it on live streams, and we've gone back and forth. Coop and I like to have more of an anchor situation, while Kev is fully on board with punting the position
Good TV,
as far
baby. It's
down the
good
road as he
TV.
can. But I think, honestly, this season, Kev, you've come around a little bit more to more of that anchor side when that value falls to you there. And we haven't seen as much of a running back dead zone this year as we have in years past, as the wide receivers have been pushed up the board and the running backs have kind of fallen. So there's a lot more value there in those kind of like third to fifth round than there has been in years past. So I think that plays a big part in why you're slowly coming around to accept running backs.
Well, Kev, are you slowly coming around or what? Or is this just a matter of trying to keep the peace?
I mean, I've capitulated, I feel like, more, especially when faced with the glaring eyes of Britt and Andrew Cooper, especially when it comes to Miles Sanders. It's in particular, but look, the ADP landscape kind of dictates having to roll with the punches. So with this particular ADP, and especially in a format like this or tight end premium, we're going to see running backs push down even more. We're going to see wide receivers still pushed up. To where, we're able to get 5 wide receivers from rounds 3 through 8. We're only starting at maximum 4. I think it's important more than ever with how I don't want to say it's gross, but a lot of the news has revolved around these third round and turn 2-3 turn running backs with Taylor, Ramondre Stevenson, Breece Hall, Tony Pollard, Joe Mixon, obviously a little bit later, but knowing kind of where to make your detours while still maintaining the structure of your roster with making sure that you're getting enough wide receiver firepower to add to a Kelsey Mahomes. I mean, Aaron Jones, I think, is criminally underrated almost every season. I'm not saying that because he follows me on Twitter and will probably end up seeing this. But you know what? Aaron Jones, hey, buddy. I mean, maybe not at this exact point in time that is training camp, but I think Aaron Jones is very criminally underrated when you're talking about the running backs that are going in this tier. When you're looking at the Miles Sanders, you're looking at maybe David Montgomery, J.K. Dobbins, where we know there's a lot of questions with those guys. There's not a lot of questions with Aaron Jones, and I think he could lead the Packers in, at least be the second target, best case scenario for the Packers while still having his touches managed. I think it's going to come down to a lot of how Jordan Love does, whether he can at least provide some kind of, efficiency with the Packers passing game that'll trickle down to the running game. Plus LaFleur without Rodgers there, Packers just might run the ball more just in total.
Yeah, Packers might run the ball a little bit more in total. I agree. This is the first time we're going to see LaFleur's offense in its purest form without Rodgers in there, but one of the things that, we did see, or at least I noticed, I wish I had the video here, just to show it was like Aaron Rodgers, he was like barking at the sidelines. He was angry. He was like shoving AJ Dillon in the shoulder to tell him to get the hell off the field. Yeah. And then like you see him like come in and you see Dillon and Aaron Jones kind of swap out. And so, listen, I know Aaron Jones was definitely one of Aaron Rodgers' guys, as rightfully so. Aaron Rodgers is just about, I trust the guys who have done it for me over and over and over again. And I know that I have faith in Aaron Jones to do the job. I guess the question is, and I'll start with you, Britt, on this one here, playing devil's advocate to this, are we concerned that in the purest form of Matt LaFleur's offense, we are going to get a lot more A.J. Dillon?
I think we could get a lot more A.J. Dillon, but Aaron Jones could still be a running back 1. I think that they're going to rely a lot more on this run game to support Jordan Love, and I think both things can be true. So as far as an anchor, I wouldn't have felt comfortable taking Dillon like as our first running back. I really wanted that first guy. And I think that Aaron Jones still has value there, especially with everybody else who was going. I mean, I'm higher on Montgomery, I think, than Kevin is, but with Dobbins and Dameon Pierce, White, I'm not comfortable with any of those guys as an anchor. Aaron Jones is where I draw the line.
Kevin, cover your eyes. I don't want you to see Britt's expression or head movements or anything like this. Britt, if Aaron Jones, well, I mean, based on the board here right now, Aaron Jones, would you have preferred Miles Sanders, Kenneth Walker, Damian Pierce, David Montgomery to Aaron Jones? Is there one of those guys who you would have preferred?
We were actually arguing over Miles Sanders, and then he got taken before our pick, so we didn't have to argue when it was time. But yeah, I think I would have taken Sanders over Jones just because that 3-down role with him is basically solidified. There's very little competition behind him, and he's going to have pass catching work on top of it. I think that Jones does split it a little bit more, but there's still going to be so much volume there that it's not really going to matter that much.
Kev, did you throw elbows or something? How'd you make it happen, Kev?
I have never thrown elbows in my life. Actually, when we do, because we are going to post this live stream, we did record it last night. So I think people will be surprised. There can be some give and take with having to make decisions with a second person. Me and Britt I would say we were pretty civil, all things considered, with how the sausage got made with this team, because I think we never really got sniped. It was about as comfortable a draft as far as the guys that we wanted falling to us, outside of Alec Pierce, maybe in the 16th round. And then I think maybe I'm trying to look like Jalen Warren, Gerald Everett, who we were talking about too. We ended up taking Mike Gesicki kind of as a consolation prize. But despite, looking back at this now, a day later with maybe fresher eyes, our running backs they average about 45 years old with Kamara and McKinnon and those guys. But you know what? I'm totally fine with it. I think we constructed a pretty nice running back room, all things considered. In this landscape, you're talking J.J. Zacharyson, Pat Kerrane, Jared Smola. You're talking, and then also the main event, early bird entrance as the Joes in this. So it's obviously a tough room. No matter how you slice it, no matter where you are in pros versus Joes, just happy to be a part of it. And I'm very happy with how this turned out.
Listen, we know that Alvin Kamara is going to meet with Goodell before the ruling of the suspension. We are expecting to see something, whether it's going to be 3 games, 4 games, 5 games, 6 games. I'm not really sure exactly what Goodell is thinking with regard to that. So in the early portion of the season, well, I guess, you know what? Well, I guess, do you guys just assume that Deonta Foreman is going to be your guy, or are we thinking that we're going to sit comfortably with a Kelsey, Mahomes, McKinnon stack to lock in our RB2 for at least the first, let's just say for the first 4 to 6 weeks?
That was my thinking. I was super happy to take McKinnon where we got him. I think that he's still super underrated, and people aren't really remembering the fact that he was a huge part of that offense last year, and they haven't really changed that much. It's still a wide receiver by committee. There still is no clear-cut wide receiver one. It's going to be Travis Kelce, and then everything else is just going to be interspersed to these couple guys. But McKinnon was the guy with the explosiveness and that short 8-out route that was able to get yards after the catch, and especially at the goal line and in the red zone. So I think that we're going to be just perfectly fine with McKinnon. And I do love that triple stack. And we talked about it a little bit earlier. I'm high on Foreman. I think that he's going to be fine. I think he's going to be the lead back. I think that Chicago's offensive line is much improved, and they should just be a lot better this year. So I'm fine with having them as my RB2 these first couple weeks and ride out any suspension with some very plus upside down the stretch.
Yeah, I think we did enough as far as standalone value and just at least early season value to where Aaron Jones obviously will be our anchor, but being able to find, get McKinnon, Algier, who I think will still have a role even with Bijan there, Foreman and Edwards. I think we could certainly patch together some solid RB2 weeks there. And then Kamara, provided, now they have Jamal Williams and Kendry Miller there. If they use Kamara how they used him, 3 years ago, rather than just running him into the middle of the offensive line for 200 carries and reduced efficiency. If they can get him back to a receiving role and not having so much tread on the tires and just letting him do what he does best, I think he's not going to get up to where he's a league winning running back as far as, at the end of the year, but he can certainly provide a nice punch if we have to throw him, if he ends up scoring enough to get in the flex or at the RB2 with Aaron Jones. So with the firepower that we have with Kelsey and Mahomes, with a nice wide receiver group, I think even if maybe we fall short a little bit in RB2 weeks, I think we've got enough elsewhere where that can kind of boost that up a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I believe that, McKinnon, Foreman could definitely be just a nice, hey, you know what, if you're going to have to, pay down at a position, right? You can't have the best guy at every single spot in your lineup. So if you are going to pay down for like your RB2, the McKinnon down to Foreman situation could kind of go either way, at least for the early weeks. So I don't mind that. By the way, your comment about Alvin Kamara not being a league winner is spoken like a guy who did not face him late in the season when he had his 6 touchdown game. All right.
No, because I had him.
You dog, you.
I had him in Warrior Bowl the year I should have won that league, honestly. But I will reserve my is a league winner, is not a league winner, based on the comments I made about Nick Chubb last season. That
see, I wasn't even going to bring that up, Kev. Right, we've moved on. We've wiped the slate clean. Don't you remember those little boards that you got where you could like draw on them and then lift it up and it would just erase the whole thing? That's what it is. I don't believe
I have 6% Nick Chubb in best ball. I'm with the field on best ball on Nick Chubb.
Jeez, I have 6% Chubb in best ball. And Britt's talking about short A dots. So listen, guys, my wife is the only one who's allowed to talk to me like that. All right. So you two both better watch it right now. 6% Chubb, short A dots. Let's get your guys, rate your receivers, and put let's put a bow on this draft, because listen, I told you, I don't hate the draft. I don't agree with the draft. If you guys saw my draft board I did on Alarm Fantasy Football yesterday during the show, everybody was going so crazy bonkers over wide receivers that I was like, fuck it, man. I'm just going to keep taking running backs and screw you guys. I'm going home. But talk to me here. So, you pay a little bit of a price going with the Mahomes Kelsey stack. Now, T. Higgins, I love him. You love him. Who's not to love him? But rate for me, we'll start with Kev here. Rate for me on a scale of 1 to 10 where you think your receiver room sits for the at least for the way the season's going to open.
The way the season's going to open, I would say probably a good 8.5. I think we have a good mix of guys that are locked into roles. I mean, we have some opportunity there that could come back up with, Michael Pittman, whether it's Gardner Minshew or Anthony Richardson, throwing him the rock. So I do like being able to get Pittman there. He's not a guy that I'm like fully on, but I certainly recognize the fact that he's going to have 130, 140 targets there. And even if they're kind of inefficient, with this Jonathan Taylor thing, if this bleeds into the season, I think it's going to just help the passing game. I think, I'd rather have put my chips in on those guys scoring than Evan Hull or Deion Jackson. So I do like that. I've been on Jordan Addison the entire offseason as far as a guy in a condensed offense that I think, anytime you're playing on the opposite side of Justin Jefferson and alongside TJ Hawkinson, I think good things are coming. Elijah Moore has been a great, star of training camp, and adding to that Deshaun Watson, Amari Cooper cadre of pass catchers there in Cleveland. So I like that. Jerry Jeudy, no Tim Patrick, unfortunately, but certainly like him. And then T. Higgins, I mean, I only have his jersey right behind me, so you guys know how I feel about that. And then I won't say anything bad about Alan Lazard. I am contractually obligated to not say anything bad about him the day after we drafted him. But John Mechie, Khalil Shakir, Josh Downs are nice stabs on young talent in ambiguous wide receiver / pass catching room. So give me a nice 8.5.
8.5.
Yeah, I'm going to go 7.5. I think that I'm not exactly in love with the Shakir pick because I am higher on Dalton Kincaid working out of the slot, but I can see him having some work there. Jerry Jeudy and Elijah Moore were both in my breakout articles. I think that they both have stellar seasons. And I don't get why you hate Alan Lazard. His red zone share is so good. Sure, he's not this big target monster. He's not crazy, but he's Aaron Rodgers' security blanket in the red zone.
If I can I get my attorney to waive the? I can. Okay. If this were a points per block league, I think Allen Lazard should be like a 9th, 10th rounder. Unfortunately, it is not. I will have to consult Fantasy Mojo on if we can get an addendum for the scoring on that. Otherwise, I just can't do Allen Lazard. But you know what? In a draft where you're drafting with somebody, you have to have some give and take. You have to be able to capitulate. You have to be able to kind of roll with the punches. So in the 14th round, Allen Lazard, come on down.
His red zone targets ranked 12th and 16th over the past 2 seasons. One of those seasons was with Devontae Adams. Now that they have Garrett Wilson, he's got Aaron Rodgers. What makes you think he's not going to be that security blanket? All he needs is a touchdown to hit our lineup. And in round 14, Kevin.
We already have that, and his name is Cole Turner in the 20th round.
Oh, see, all right. So, all right, my illustrious producer, Ernie Acosta. Ernie, thank you very much for everything that you do. Can we scroll down a little bit on this draft board here? Because I'm going to go one final question here about the draft before we got to let Kev go. Because I feel like he should be writing something that should be posted on the site very soon.
There will be.
Oh, I know. Oh, I said, dude, your last article topic that we exchange emails about, I'm very much into seeing that piece. I don't want to tell anybody what it is. Kev's writing about a running back. I don't want to tell anybody what it is.
Can I say that it's
about a running back? So I want to.
Can I say it's a hit piece at least?
It's a think piece. All right, so here we go. Let's see. Let's go round 12 and beyond. 12 through 20. The one player who you genuinely believe is going to actually pop for you this year. Britt, you go first.
I mean, I think Mike Gesicki. I love him in this Bill O'Brien offense with the Patriots, with that receiving room, a tight end premium on top of it. I love his chances this year. And we've already got Kelsey. So if we've got Kelsey and a Gesicki possibility in the flex with a tight end premium, love that.
I'm going to go Deonta Foreman here because the dude, Deonta Foreman is the kind of the blueprint for Achilles injury success stories. He has been the one guy that's actually thrived after having Achilles surgery. We know guys like Marlon Mack, obviously Tim Patrick, we just saw that, but that injury has been pretty much a death knell for a lot of fantasy relevant players. And at least so far, we have not seen that from Deonta Foreman. It was kind of a long road back when he was with the Texans, and then obviously had a kind of a 2-year layover. And then we saw him last year when Christian McCaffrey got traded, how that backfield shaped up. They got a lot of volume, but it was really Foreman and Chuba Hubbard carrying the load surprisingly well. So the fact that Foreman is so efficient and now goes to Chicago where they have improved their offensive line, where it is still ambiguous, where, yeah, you've got Roschon Johnson and Khalil Herbert, but Deonta Foreman is kind of like a barnacle. The dude just hangs around and never goes away.
So true.
He really is.
That's like the perfect description right there.
That dude always seems to find his way into like 165, 170 carries. And if the dude can run 4.5 yards per carry, we could be looking at 800 yards and like 5-6 touchdowns in the 15th round. I mean, where else can you get that kind of production, without hitting on a big rookie or something like that? Like maybe Jeff Wilson. That's about it.
All right. Well, there you go, folks. Again, they've recorded their live stream. So now that you've seen the final product and we've kind of talked through that, the process with which this was all created, as Kev puts it, the way the sausage is made, we'll be announcing that, broadcasting that when that's going to go live for everybody to kind of check it out. I'm going to have my popcorn ready right there, right around round 5, see what's going on. Cause I think round 5 is going to be the good head-to-head battle there. And I'm looking forward to that. But in the meantime, guys, thank you so much. I mean, Kev, appreciate you, you double duty here. Where'd he go? Oh, there he went. Appreciate you doubling down here and making an appearance and joining us here on the show, man. Thank you so much.
Appreciate you having me anytime. I know you guys are talking auction. I was gonna say I'll flash the little hardware there from our Kings Classic auction, which, by the way, next weekend I will be sitting next to you drafting, Howard.
Do you want to sit in here and talk auction with us?
Why not? I got nothing going on.
I mean, listen, I'm fine with. I mean, if you want to talk auction, all right, let's.
Lights,
you
camera,
ready?
auction. Let's go.
All right. Well, I mean, listen. Let me ask Britt. Britt, are you comfortable with Kev just staying around here?
Oh my gosh, I'm so sick of him. Did a draft, did the lightning round, and now he's in
Sound
here.
like Aaron.
Oh my
You
god.
sound like Aaron.
Yes, he can stay.
All right. Well, let's get down to it, folks. We definitely
Let's
wanted
live
to
a
talk
little.
auction strategy here. We do have, for those of you going to the Kings, to the Expo, to the Fantasy Football Expo next week, 3 of us right here. We're all going to be there and battling back and forth. So, all right. I mean, listen, I always write this article every single year. Justin Fensterman's been doing it for the draft guide lately because my article, I tend to think more about, not just the hardcore strategies, but also how you carry yourself in an auction. And it's, stuff that you kind of have to do. So Kev, if you're the reigning champion, I mean, let's go through it right now. What is, and then, and then we'll kind of just go around the room. If you had to give one piece of advice to somebody going in and doing an auction for the very first time, what would it be?
Pay attention. Like, keep your eyes peeled on everything going on. Not only that, but kind of it dovetails into know your pricing, being able to set kind of your own personal pricing and be in on everybody. Like, don't tip off who your favorite players are. Don't be nominating, only the guys that you want. Like, last year, I wasn't a big fan of Derrick Henry. Obviously that seems to bite me every year, really. But, even guys like David Montgomery, who maybe I might not be in, I'm still bidding on them because if I can get them at a cheaper price, it's going to benefit me. And then it's going to, cripple somebody else's running back room potentially. So yeah, I think the thing that, and I'll tell you this this is the first live auction I'd ever done was last year at the Kings Classic.
Oh.
And just kind of going in with some, these strategies. I mean, just being in on everybody, I would say, would be the most important thing to kind of take away from going into an auction and just paying attention.
Well, I'm mean, so this is my strategy.
Shocker.
Nominate players who will incite bidding wars that you want no part of, who you think are going to be busts. Let everybody else waste their budget and fight over these highly polarizing players that you're out on. And that way, when these kind of mid-range players and breakouts come around, then you can get them super cheap because everybody else has already blown their budget. And that's my favorite thing to do is be mean.
Is being mean. I mean, listen, there's nothing wrong with that because listen, one of the major steps, and you guys both hit on it right there, is to nominate with purpose. Like, if you want people to eat through their bid money, then yeah, if you're out on a guy, if you're 100% out on a guy and he's going to cost money, then nominate him, throw him right out there. Make sure that somebody is, especially early on, because that's when everybody's going to kind of rifle through all their money the most. They're going to, some people are going to be patient and hold back and kind of relax. But for the most part there, I mean, a lot of people, and listen, I'm all for being aggressive in your drafts. I think that there are bargains to be had because this isn't like a fantasy baseball draft where you're auctioning, 25, 26 rounds. This is like 16 rounds and that's it. And, if you have to do a kicker and a defense, that's $1 each and, whatever. Not going to, push that envelope at all. So nominating with purpose, whether it's to get somebody to chew up the bid money, it's whether or not you want to throw out a name that you think you can sneak by everybody while everybody's like, getting all blinky about the top players, you can like throw in somebody who you're like, well, nobody really likes this dude, so maybe I'll just be able to sneak him by free. Whatever the case may be, you're not just nominating a player for the sake of nominating a player. There has to be a reason behind it. I am 100%. Now, how do you guys handle budgeting your money? Do you do it by position? Do you do it like, how do you usually go about setting that plan up for yourself? I'll start with Britt. that way?
So, well, I've only done one auction, and it was actually last year's King's Classic as well. I went in, had zero prep. So, aside from reading the auction strategy out of the draft guide, I crammed with that the night before. But I went in there and I wanted a stud at basically every position. So, I did kind of a studs and duds draft. So, I ended up getting Josh Allen. I got Travis Kelce. Got Najee Harris, which didn't work out the best in the beginning of the season because of his foot situation, but down the stretch, he picked things up and finished the season strong. And then wide receiver was the position that I punted most because everybody was going super expensive, like 60, $50. So I ended up with Mike Evans, and I mean, I was okay with that. And then the rest of the guys, just those low range upside guys for, $5 or $6, and then ended up playing the waiver wire a ton, which was insane in a 14-team league, but it worked out. There's still a lot of value that you don't realize that you can get out there on the waivers.
Yeah, I definitely did not do enough of a job of distracting you during the draft because you were right next to me, and I probably should have talked more to you or, just chewed your ear off a little bit and, kind of distracted you. Kevin's right. You got to pay attention to absolutely everything. So if you've got like a chatty Cathy sitting next to you, you got to, learn to tune that out. We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see. If I'm going to sit in between the two of you guys now. I'm just going to go back and forth and see if I can ruin your drafts.
Well, I'm in the Queen's Classic, so.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. You were just a fan last year.
Yep, I was just some random fan
who
ended up coming in third in a 14-teamer. It's fine.
Can of worms.
Open it. Stir that pot, Bender. Stir that pot. All right. Well, let's see. Let's talk about some other things. One of the things that I also like to do, and this is like a little trick, and you guys will see me do this in auctions. I mean, Britt, you probably witnessed this last year. I mean, one of the things that you have to do is you always have to watch your cadence when you're bidding.
Yep.
You got to mix it up. You can't, like, if everybody knows that you're going to be completely silent until all of a sudden it's the last second and then you chime in with a player, then they're going to learn that that's how to bid you up. As soon as, you say something, whenever you do that. I'm curious as to your guys' thoughts on this little strategy of mine. I like to bid on the 4s and I like to bid on the 9s. And what that means is that when somebody's going, 15, 16, 17, I go right to 19 because my feeling is that's going to put the other person on the track of going, is this a $20 player? Am I really spending 20? And what happens if I go to 20 and somebody goes to 21? And it causes them to kind of back off and maybe not make that jump. They won't even go, like they were debating whether or not to go to 18, and I just pushed them to 19. I do that with, with the 4s and the 9s on the regular, just to kind of put that onus on them. I know where my budget's at. And so I try to do it as kind of a way to, just push people around a little bit in the auction. Thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, that's interesting. I've actually never heard that before, but it makes a lot of sense. I tried to, kind of have a poker mindset where I don't want to give any kind of tell based on if it's a player I want. If it's like a Kyle Pitts versus a Jarvis Landry or just somebody I really don't want, I want to be able to kind of bid the same way as I do, with those players and not kind of give anything away. Like, I don't want to give off the fact that I have aces and there's 2 aces on the flop and, I just pulled quads. I don't want to let anybody know that. So I'm going to take that kind of mindset into something like this, where you're not just playing the wanting to get your favorite players. Cause obviously the best part of an auction is that everybody is in play. You're not at the whim of a snake draft where you have, 101 or you have 112, you have no shot at Justin Jefferson. Like, everybody is in play. So basically it's the world is your oyster and get whoever you want. But I want to be able to, at least from what I can control, just kind of play it off and not give any tells to anybody. I don't want to tip anybody off because I feel like that's something that I can have as an edge for me where nobody can read that.
Yeah, I admit I had no thought process whatsoever when it came to cadencing. I was just kind of jumping in. The original plan, Sellers was behind me. He's like, remember, just sit back and watch a couple and then jump in. He's like, wait a minute, don't get too excited. The
And
very
didn't you
first
get Kelsey the first pick?
It was
Or the
Josh
first-
Allen, but yes,
Okay.
the very first player that went up for bid, I was like, that's out the window. So I just kind of follow my gut, which I guess is unpredictable and okay to do as well. But I will take that 4 and 9 cadence into effect now. That's a very interesting point.
There's something to think about there. It's like also when you're sitting there, you have to understand that as the auction's going on, market value is being developed, right? So if you see what Justin Jefferson goes for, if you see, well, I mean, I don't even want to use, you don't even have to use the number ones in each one. But what I do like to do is I like to nominate guys who are probably going to set a benchmark for me so that I can understand really like where they're going. Maybe I'm looking at, Olave or T Higgins. And so I'll throw out Devontae Adams, right? Where's Adams going to go? Because Olave and Higgins should fall in somewhere underneath him, based on normal market valuing on players. I think that's also something like super important that you guys have to pay, not you two, I mean everybody, that you always have to pay attention to when you're doing an auction draft. And that is just, set that, be the first person to nominate a tight end if you have to. Be that first person to nominate a wide receiver if you have to. Set those benchmarks and figure out where you're going to go, because the further you go into your draft, the deeper at each position, the better the bargain you're going to end up getting.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's a great point, because look at guys like DK Metcalf, where they're almost in their own kind of tier by themselves after that Olave, Higgins, Devonta Smith kind of tier. And it pretty much separates off after that to like the Keenan Allens and the Amari Coopers, guys like that, Deebo Samuel. So setting like a DK Metcalf, that really is going to establish, all right, so maybe I can expect, if DK Metcalf goes for like 25, and, I can expect maybe that type tier to go into like maybe the late 20s, 30s, and guys below that. I mean, you're always going to have guys that people like more than others. So it's not like tried and true black and white kind of thing. But I think it's very interesting to kind of take tiers that are kind of well established, and you can gain a lot of information with pricing that way.
Yeah.
Britt, final thoughts?
So I would say know your league and research who the players that people want are, because then you can cause them to kind of overspend on them. Again, blow your budget. Just know the room that you're drafting with so that you know what you're walking into.
100%. Listen, we're going to be talking more auctions in the coming weeks and trying to help everybody along because it does get to be an intriguing process. Listen, if you guys are at the Fantasy Football Expo next week, come find the three of us. Come find everybody else from the Fantasy Alarm family. We're happy to help. Go to fantasyalarm.com/draft guide. Get yourself the draft guide, the cheat sheet, all of the knowledge that we have to offer. But that's going to do it for us here today. Big thank you to Ernie, our producer. For Britt, Flynn, Kev Tompkins, I'm Howard Bender of Alarm Fantasy Football. Catch you next time.